be said as a German product today. You might have some kind of emblem on it, but you have like an Indian system mounted on a German car. If you're driving a GM SUV, the four-wheel drive comes from us as a company. So, I think we need to sort of open these horizons a little rather than, looking at compartmentalization, because if we are going to be silos in the industry, Daimler and Ford are collaborating with technologies of fuel cells. They actually have a company together. So there's a lot which is happening, which is dismantling barriers. I just challenge this point of view.
I'm not talking about a new competition, at least, and that was a question I have to think about, is how can we keep production and, at the end, wealth in Europe? In my imagination, when we think about, I stay with my battery example, when we could make it, and our suppliers and manufacturers are trying to do so, to be maybe a little bit in front. And if we could make it to produce them somewhere in Europe, wherever that would be, of course, that would be a part of the competition. And of course, it could be also, and should be also possible, that non-European manufacturers having e-cars with those batteries. We are relying not on borders. I mean, this industry is completely globalized. And I think it's no way, and it would not be a very good idea to draw that back somehow.
Mr. Esner, please.
Maybe I would like to support Mr. Dimmer in this question, because this is also a question about the sources for batteries. For example, where are the main sources of lithium in the world? In my opinion, I think I heard that it's Asia and South Africa. Yeah? It means the source for battery production is not in here. And one more time, we are in this point, what is the sustainability of the economics, which means the competitiveness of the business has to be really sustainable and has to continue to grow. And this is this fight against, one more time, this is the question about the triad. Okay, car is a really global product. You are right. Maybe some Indian products are placed in the cars in Czech Republic, in Slovakia. Some Chinese products are also placed in. This is a real product which contains some parts from different regions. But the basis, now we are talking about the European Union competitiveness.
Yes.
And this is the point. Sometimes we say in Slovakia we are more holy than holy. Yeah. It is famous regulations about to take into consideration the whole CO2 production around the world, then the big energy plants, the energy stations. Yeah. Cars in the world is not the main one. We know about this, all of us. Mm-hmm. Which means this is a discussion about the competitiveness. And this is really to think about it and to keep the European environment in very healthy conditions. On the other hand, it is a challenge, which is good. My Indian friend, Manjit Singh from Delhi, he says always, there is no problem, there is only challenge. And this is true.
It's very true.
And therefore, we have to start really to make some actions according to Industry 4.0. But this is a big point for us to be spoken about between associations in the European Union. One more time, try to protect not the market, but protect the brain sometimes.
Yeah. I will also say a little bit that basically is the job of executives of German automobile industry to protect their business and to grow their business. That's their job. And if they are challenged, they need to figure out how to deal with the challenge. And it's the job of the government of Germany to make sure that 500,000 people don't lose the job. So I don't view that as a question about the borders or political issue. It's just pragmatic issue. They have business which they have to defend and grow. And country has a labor market which has to defend and grow. It's simple like that. I don't view that political.
You're so right in terms of the innovation. If we so, it's not the technology which is disruptive. It's the business model which is integrating the technologies and putting forth to the customer which is disruptive. I don't know how many of you guys know this, but I had the opportunity to visit the assembly line of Tesla, and the battery size is that of a AA size. It's that small, which he's building, and it's laid out, 7,000 of them are laid out on the base. So that's how he is thinking. Now, do you think a block of battery or getting Elon Musk to invest in this geography of Europe, is that a solution? Because neither the capital has today a color. You know, dollar may be one of the secure currencies, but to my mind, the capital will flow where there's a demand and there is a business sense or a business model which will produce an ROI. I mean, I'm not talking the political language, you know, that's totally different. I'm talking the language of businesses, which actually contribute to value creation, whether it's even in the economy or to the jobs.
So if I may just add on that, also regarding the legislation, also the country that would actually allow, for example, self-driving car, if I may, on more traditional note, could have a big competition. What do you think about this? Do you actually believe in no car accidents in the future? I think in US already they've been tested, so maybe your experience from US.
So, first of all, nothing is perfect in this world. We spend a ton of money to make sure there are no plane crashes, and they are. We spend billions of dollars to protect nuclear basically power plants to not have accidents, and they are. So, expecting perfect technology is not realistic, and we have to set right expectations. While we have been talking in last more than 30 minutes, in conventional cars, more than 10 times size of this room people died while we have been talking in the car accident. More than 2,000 people died during the time what we have been speaking. That's the reality. And self-driving cars has opportunity to basically reduce that, not have 1 million fatalities per year. Maybe only 200,000 or 100,000. There will be huge improvement. You will save million lives. But the issue has to be addressed very carefully, because in American legal system, if you have home appliance which will cause 200,000 deaths per year, it will be not acceptable. So basically, society has to be ready and properly understand that phenomena, and government will need to change the regulations to save these million lives. It should not be viewed as this new self-driving car costs 200,000 deaths. No, it's save 1 million lives. And current US legal system is not ready for that. European system is slightly different, and I don't know much less, but this technology will not be perfect, and we need to deploy it. We need to save people's lives, and there will be huge debates how to do it. And you can take two extremes. You can be continuing improving, for example, perceived safety of this car by making them slower and slower. But at a certain point, it will be inconvenient for people to use, and all the concept will be suddenly irrelevant, because if it's inconvenient, people will use older conventional technology. So, because it's coming in next 5 to 10 years, I would say more closer to 5 years than 10 years, I think that this debate has to be there and prepare the society ground and basically legislation ground to successfully incorporate the technology, because every new technology has the resistance. When cars started, people has to be running this flag up front of the car to warn other people, and society adapted. So I view that even bigger challenge on society side than the technological challenge to accept that.
If I may jump into this, the concept of mobility is changing. And how a person gets from point A to point B and back, whether it's a place of work or place of residence. In this, obviously, safety becomes an issue. And sustainability, where emissions, etc., become an issue. So India, China, is the mobility, answer to mobility is 100 vehicles per 1,000 in here. But if we had that kind of volumes in India, it would be a totally different challenge and probably totally not be sustainable. So the mobility concept itself needs to be relooked for it is going to be. So the mass transport systems need to be collaborative. They're also the Industry 4.0 pass cars, which are possibly going to about 75 million of them being produced this year. That how many of them are going to go to active safety systems? Passive systems, few of them. We saw that we need active safety systems. So at least the first step, active system where the vehicles start talking to each other and maintain some without even the driver realizing. Another ECU or something takes over, working with the commercial vehicle, the Daimler commercial vehicle in India, which is called Bharat Benz. That trial is on for a safety system. And the challenges in India are totally different, where you don't even have the markers for a lane. So you have to adjust to the end of road rather than seeing the divider in the lane. So there are these challenges where we look at mobility and not look at the auto set. Auto set is one piece of mobility, I think. And my friend who's just come from Boston, from MIT, close to MIT, this disruption is already happening. They have small pods. I saw that in the media lab. They have small pods. You can sit in that pod, go to a location, and keep that pod there. It sort of also takes minimal space for parking, and then you can just keep doing this. So is that going to change how we look at mobility? Is the mass transport system going to change the way the mobility is seen? So these are some of the questions which are going to come in.
Mr. Sinamea, Slovakia is the biggest car producer per capita. I don't have to tell you this, of course. But do you think we should try to find a niche maybe within automotive sector in innovation, for example, by easing the legislation with self-driving cars?
Yeah. As I've spoken before, there is a lot of, let's say, layers of this question. If we talk about the, let's say, the production part, because Matador is already right now, turnover point of view, the biggest one, tier 1 supplier in Slovakia, thanks to the three car makers now, but fortunately the fourth one is coming already, which is a good message not only for us, but maybe for all the economics of the neighborhood, because really Slovakia is too small country, only 5.5 million inhabitants, and this is a small market. Maybe in the audience, all of you, you know that maybe the difference between the third generation or revolution, which was the digital factory, now we are talking about the 4.0, which is the smart industry. Yes. This is the difference between those, and main difference, in short to say, is to make a more autonomous units, which have been or had been managed in the past on one very strong, one tight structure. We have a good opportunity to be a developer of such autonomous units, because our core business is stamping and welding on SEs, which means they are the welded parts for a body in white cars. we simply build some parts for body of cars. You cannot see them. They are structural parts. The skin parts, they build the producers, OEMs, by themselves, because there is hidden certain know-how and design. And for this, we need to have except the engineering and design company, also good tool makers, good tool design firstly, and then tool makers, optimization. Then we have also some stamping facilities with the latest sort of technology for stamping, transfer stamping, for example, and so on. Also, in the meantime, we are changing the material from the steel for aluminium, many sorts of castings of aluminium. Now the components are, the compounds are coming in place for a short future, which means, and then we have to join somehow the parts which we are used to stamp before. And this all has to be done by some unit which could work autonomous, but in the connection to the previous operations, let's say to the stamping department, to the logistics, internal logistics, and the next one after this, also to the store and to the customer, because we are running just in time or just in sequence in some examples. Which means we have a very good opportunity to be in the process and to be a developer of the real units by ourselves. And except this stamping and welding, this is the biggest activity of Matador. We have a company in Dubnica placed, MIA Engineering, which are the guys. This is a really a startup. This is a question if the startups can do only the guys from garage, or if also the quite big companies, big means in the European terms, more to employ more than 250 people, which is also sometimes not useful, I think, because if you have a company, you are successful. Then you grow. In the next 2 years, you employ more than 250, and boom, you can get cut because you become a big company. This is the question. But we started with 3 guys checking the system, and now we employ about 60 guys there. The turnover has grown until 35 million euros in last 3 years, which is very good. But basics is they are young guys, young people. We take every year from the university the best students here. And this is, in Slovakia, to be honest, a lack of good people. And with those guys, we developed really the latest technologies according to the automotive industrial part. We are not talking about the human robots. Human have, this is a touch, you should feel, yeah? You have to see. Yeah, then you have to, basically the 3 abilities we do have, the touch, because we are an integrator of KUKA IVA robots. And last month we sold the first implementation of the KUKA IVA robots to Škoda, which is simply collaborative robots, which has a touch, which feels. And this is a part, very small part of Industry 4.0. But really, the robot is working in line with the human, with the people, and we are sure that he cannot damage, he cannot maybe make an accident to the colleagues, to the people. One of the very few implementations of such robots in this region, I have to tell you. And these robots could only feel. Commissioning, I have played with this robot chess, because we put on place a digital camera. It means the robot has soul. He was a chess. I lost in very few minutes, yeah. But this is like a touch, okay? Then you see, then you can start to think already right now. And part of this, but in connection to the other lines, this is really the system we should build up.
So please feel free. Mr. Dima, in the meantime, I would actually like to enable actually devices and sensors being able to communicate with each other without human intervention, for example.
Wow, that's a difficult question for me, being not a technician at all. I don't know, maybe one
more, because that would be also influential on us, but of course also other panelists are more than welcome to comment on that.
I mean, in generally spoken, of course, standards is always an issue. A standard setter in our industry.
Yes.
In terms of Industry 4.0, for example, when it comes to production, we have a vast number of working groups really working on quality standards in production, on how can parts talk to machines, and how can this be safe and proper? And yeah, that's maybe my answer actually. That's yeah.
And gentlemen, would you like to comment on that as well?
Sure. Yeah, I'm actually very fortunate. My friend has a company called RTI, called Real Time Innovation. He's CEO Schneider, and he's in United States. And basically, Wall Street Journal and Forbes, they voted this company #1 influential company for industrial Internet of Things, IoT and communication protocols. And meeting him once per month, it's interesting to observe that. So what you can view that into few layers. You know, you have bottom layer, which is the hardware, and it was highly diverse in the past. You had MIPS, ARM, PowerPC, and so on, but the cost is being reduced by reducing number of the platforms. So it seems like two major platform, ARM and Intel, is emerging on the hardware layer. Once you have hardware in place, the next thing is how it communicates, the protocols. So there is standardization bodies where all big companies, Cisco, Intel, and so on, are participating. Europe is participating. Europe tried to create own standardization body, and but eventually they merged with US one. And this is the communication layer, that you have standard ways of parts talking to each other in predictable way. And already these standards are used across the industries, like GE, General Electric, or you know, US Army and many other components are using this standardization software layer. That's the middleware, and that's a relatively good standardized. There was two different competing platform, but